this deal, if you want to call it, deal with the devil, if you want to call it that, to end the government shutdown here in Washington. And I thought of a perfect guest to bring in today. It's Ezra Levin of the group Indivisible. He's been the grand poobah of organizing these No Kings protests that have been wildly successful across the country. Ezra, great to see you, man. And I heard from your people this morning that you wanted to come on, and I was waking up this morning saying, I want to get Ezra to come on because did you see this? Angus King, I'm sure you saw what Angus King said. Standing up to Donald Trump didn't work. I mean, are you kidding me, man?
Look, I've spent a lot of time gathering my thoughts on this, Jim, and I went to bed with incandescent rage as I was writing the newsletter going out today and where we go from here, because I do think a couple of things. It's important for us to understand what went down. What I do not want is for folks to throw their hands up and say, well, I guess none of this matters. We can check out. That's really dangerous when an authoritarian is terrorizing our communities, as we just heard from Castro. They are invading our cities. They are zip tying children and dragging them out of their apartments, in some cases naked. They're tear gassing children on the street. These images are horrific, and we need a unified opposition party to this. We can't afford to check out because otherwise they win. So let me say a couple things. Yeah. Angus King doesn't live in the same world that you and I live in, doesn't live in the same world that most rank and file Democrats live in, because everybody else who was watching this was saying Democrats are winning this fight for the first time. For the first time in a year, we felt like the wind was at our backs. We had the largest peaceful protest in American history, followed by the best election night in a decade plus, with the Republicans fracturing, with Trump blaming the shutdown for their losses, with Democratic approvals for the first time increasing because people were seeing them fight back, and with public polling showing that Democrats were winning the fight. That was the context for, you called it a deal or a deal with the devil. I call it a surrender, an utter capitulation. They got nothing. They got nothing. And so after a year spent organizing to try to convince the Democratic Party to unify and oppose this regime, here's where I am. The time for convincing is over. We need new leadership. And the place to demand new leadership is the primaries. And that's right around the corner. But we have to demand a better party. We have to demand a party that fights, because Chuck Schumer isn't listening anymore. Angus King isn't listening anymore. These Dems who are siding with the Republicans, they're not listening anymore. And we can't afford that. We need an effective Democratic Party that will fight back.
And Ezra, I think that this is, this is pretty far down into the soil, into the clay, and into the layers of sediment below. It's baked in at this point. Let me just play you what Hakeem Jeffries said. If we can play that clip. He was asked about Chuck Schumer earlier today.
And should he keep his job?
Yes and yes.
Do you view him as effective? Should he keep his job? Hakeem Jeffries, yes and yes. A lot of Democrats like yourself woke up this morning really pissed at Chuck Schumer. And there's Hakeem. He's a fellow New Yorker. I guess Hakeem Jeffries feel like he has to say it. Fellow leadership has to say it. But look, that doesn't go down good.
It's no longer about them. Can I be honest, Jim? It's not about them. They have shown us time and time again this year that given the chance, they will cower. Given the chance, they will capitulate. If they can find plausible deniability, they will give in the regime. At some point, we've got to ask ourselves, do we have self-respect? Are we willing to take no for an answer that they are unwilling to be the leaders that we need them to be? And if we're willing to take that for an answer, fine. We've got the Democratic Party we're going to have. But what I would encourage people to think about is there is a better way. This is not the entirety of the Democratic Party. We have Maxwell Frosts. We've got Jasmine Crockett's. We've got Chris Van Hollen and Chris Murphy's. We've got Bernie's and Warren's. There is a faction of fight back Democrats. And it happens to be that faction, which is somewhat ideologically diverse, that faction is ascendant. That faction is ascendant. That is where rank and file Democrats are. We took a poll. It was not a push poll. We tried to make it fair this weekend, asking, hey, Democrats might need to cut a deal to end the shutdown, and they might not get the ACA credits. That might be part of the deal. They could do that, or they can continue fighting for the ACA subsidies. What do you, Indivisible folks, the folks who were helping put on No Kings rallies, the folks showing up at town halls, the folks helping build the turnout for last week, what do you want to see them do? This shocked me, Jim. I thought I knew where the majority was, but 98.67% said keep fighting.
Wow.
98.67%. I mean,
Wow.
this is the chasm between rank and file Dems and Democratic leadership is so vast that it gives me hope for a
Yeah.
primary season where we get to choose a Democratic Party that actually fights back. Because if
You,
there's
you
one
just need people
silver
to hang in
line,
there. Yeah. You just
yeah,
need
but
people
if
to
there's
hang
this
in there until next year. Yeah.
and believe that there is a way to change things for the better. If there's a silver lining to all this, it's that this capitulation was so complete that it will be impossible to hide. Everybody
Yeah.
can see that the party is not up to the task now. And so we should be asking every single Senate Democratic candidate, are you supporting Chuck Schumer for leadership? And if you are, you don't got my vote. You don't get my donation. You don't get my support. You don't get my attention. So Indivisible today, it's going to go out in about an hour or so, Jim. We're launching the
Yeah.
largest primary program in the history of Indivisible. And it's
Mm.
going to be focused not on ideology, but on building a Democratic Party that fights back. That is what we're going to be focused on. And we're going to be working with Indivisible groups from around the country to build that party.
Wow. Okay. So that's a big deal. And I mean, if you're marshaling the resources of, what put on No Kings and so on, this is a big deal. I mean, this is going to, get some folks a little worried back in Washington. The thing though is, Ezra, is that, and I was talking about this with Joaquin Castro, is there's some choreography, it seems, going on behind the scenes.
Oh,
Chuck
yeah.
Schumer was like, okay, you just got reelected, so you're not up for a while. And oh, you're retiring over there, so we don't have to worry about you. And so now we've cobbled together the number of votes we need to go ahead and make this compromise, make this deal with the devil. And I guess you're basically, you have to send the message to all of the incumbents, just about all of them. Like, if you're part of this surrender caucus, good luck. You're
Look,
going to be in trouble.
I appreciate you focusing on this because this is like Congressional Procedure 201 instead of 101. The 101 version is 8 Senate Democrats voted for capitulation. You say, God damn, those 8 Democrats, we've really got to give it to them. But then you look and see who they are. Well, it was 8, the perfect number, the exact number they needed. And every single one of those 8 is either retiring or not running for re-election. Come on, see through it. This is how this works. A healthy percent of the caucus, I don't know if it was a dozen or 2 dozen, but more than those 8 agreed we got to capitulate. And Schumer and them identified, okay, who's going to take the heat? It can't be anybody up for re-election. It can't be a Mark Warner who's up for re-election next year. It can't be a Hickenlooper. Who's going to be primaried. We don't want them to take the heat now. Let's give it to these folks. That's how it works, which is why it is up to us to demand what separates a fight back faction Democrat from a rollover and play dead Democrat. There are going to be a lot of factors. One that I would offer for the Senate is, do you support current Senate leadership?
Yeah.
So ask Mark Warner that, ask Hickenlooper that, ask Booker that, ask Markey that. Look, this is cross-ideological. We should ask every incumbent running for re-election, are you going to stick with this leadership? Because if you are, you're part of the problem.
And I just wonder if you just need a generational change to some extent, at least from boomers to Gen Xers or maybe elder millennials. I mean, I love the Gen Zers. Sure. Put them in the Senate. That sounds great to me too, if they meet the qualifications and so on. But to me, part of this feels like when Angus King is saying, standing up to Donald Trump didn't work. I'm like, dude, come on, man. If it doesn't work, then why are you there? If you're not going to stand up to Donald Trump, who would you stand up to?
And it's factually incorrect. Work on what level? The Democrats were winning the fight in the polling. We had just won a massive turnout.
It was working.
Last week. It was working. We were winning. By what measure was it working? You mean the Republicans didn't have their come to Jesus moment? That's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. If that's your goal, of course, that and nothing else will work. But this.
I mean, you guys had Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of saying the right stuff, and it was like, holy smokes.
Look, I want people to understand how bad this capitulation was, and I don't want people to then throw up their hands, because if you think that none of this matters, that it's all fatalistic, that you should be cynical, that the two sides are the same.
I agree with you.
We will lose. And so I would highly, highly encourage people to take a look at the primaries coming up, pick a couple favorites. Maybe it's in your state or maybe it's from somewhere else in the country, but help us build that Democratic Party that fights back. That's our goal now. And I think it's necessary for us to successfully push back, because it's not just this vote. We all see what the regime is doing. They are gearing up to steal the election next year. They are setting up to contest overwhelming election results. And if we don't have a party prepared to fight back and fight for our democracy, I'm very worried for what comes. Now, the good news is these happen on 2 different timescales. We've got primary season coming up over the next few months, and then we've got general election. And regardless of how the primary shakes out, we will rally around the winner. I'm not going to win every election here. We're going to lose some. We're going to be disappointed, and we will rally around the winner in order to wall up the fascists in the midterms. That's our plan. But first step is let's try to build a Democratic Party that doesn't fail us and that people can believe in.
All right. Well, Ezra, great to talk to you. We'll be looking for that email, that campaign that you're launching here very shortly. The mighty indivisible team. They're about to, they've had enough. They're dusting themselves off after last night, and they're saying, "Hell no."
That's right.
And some folks who are running for re-election next year, hoping that they're going to just breeze through their primary. Take note. Ezra Levin, always great to see you, man. Thank you so much.
Great to see you, John.
All right, take care. It's Ezra Levin. And for folks who are like, oh, well, indivisible, that's nice. What are they going to do? Remember, they're the ones who built up these No King rallies. I mean, so they kind of know what they're doing right now. They kind of have this down. So that's a very big development and a big announcement from Ezra there that the No Kings folks, indivisible, will be basically sending, a warning shot to a lot of, incumbent Democrats in this country that there is a campaign coming for more fighters running in next year's midterms. All right, I want to change gears a little bit and cover some other stuff because there's been some batshit crazy stuff happening on the legal front. Let's bring in our friend Glenn Kirshner, and he is with Justice Matters, of course. And Glenn, great to see you. There's so much going on, and somebody who does not believe that standing up to Donald Trump doesn't work would be Glenn Kirshner. I still can't get over this comment that was made. I know that's not really in your wheelhouse, the political stuff, but I mean, when you hear Senate Democrats saying, or people who caucus with the Democrats saying standing up to Donald Trump didn't work, I'm like, are you kidding me? You're killing me, Smalls, as the saying goes.
Standing up to Donald Trump is the only thing that will work for American democracy in the long run. Period. End of story, Jim. And listen, there are still plenty of people who are out there standing up like you, the folks who are kind of at the pinnacle of independent media at this point. And, I was so disappointed to see the Dems cave, the Dems that are apparently not up for re-election. So I think we can take something away from that data point. But if you don't fight the monster, if you feed the monster, you're going to lose every time because the monster is never satisfied. The monster wants more and more and more. And I wish all of the Dems would learn that lesson.
Well, and Donald Trump gave us a reminder in the last 24 hours, sort of as everybody was hopping mad over the shutdown deal from this deal with the devil that some of the Democrats entered into. There was this announcement from Trump and his people that he is pardoning the 2020 election gang, as I like to call them, people like Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell. Remember all those knuckleheads who tried to subvert our democracy and overturn the 2020 election? Trump just sent out pardons for all of them in federal court. Now, of course, they could still be in hot water in state matters, but it has a chilling effect, I would have to think. Your thoughts on all of this, Glenn, and what do you make of it? What happens next?
Yeah, the gang that couldn't insurrect straight. So for a very long time, Jim, I talked about the boots of the insurrection and the suits of the insurrection. The boots of the insurrection were Donald Trump's angry mob that he ginned up on January 6th with his pre-insurrection pep rally. Of course, he summoned them to Washington, D.C. by posting, "Come to D.C. January 6th will be wild." And I want to talk in a minute about how I fear we're going to see a similar post from Donald Trump on the eve of the elections, the midterm elections nationwide. And he is recruiting. This is a recruiting tool for that, potentially. But the boots of the insurrection, it took Merrick Garland forever to get off the dime and get after them. But then he finally did get after them. They were convicted to the tune of well over 1,000 insurrectionists, and Donald Trump pardoned the boots of the insurrection. All along, Jim, I was asking, when will we get to the suits of the insurrection? The lawyers who did Donald Trump's dirty and criminal and unconstitutional bidding with, among other things, the fake elector scheme. Lawyers like Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, Kenneth Chesebro and Jeffrey Clark, John Eastman, Boris Epstein, and others. And they were actually named, not named, but identified in substance, the those 6 people I just mentioned in the federal criminal indictment of Donald Trump
Right.
for his alleged January 6 crimes designed to steal the office of the presidency. Those 6 people were identified in substance as unindicted co-conspirators. That's
Right.
so important because, take it from this old career prosecutor, you put unindicted co-conspirators in an indictment for a couple of different reasons, but primarily because they have either flipped and are providing information about the biggest criminal fish, which in that instance would have been Donald Trump, or because you planned to indict them in the future, which is what I believe Jack Smith intended to do. He was going after Donald Trump. He felt like time was growing short. He wanted to hold him accountable for trying to criminally steal a presidential election. And then I am just as sure as I'm sitting here, Jim, Jack Smith, knowing the prosecutor he is, was going to go after the unindicted co-conspirators
Yes.
after he held Donald Trump accountable. Then, of course, we had an election. We had a presidential immunity opinion from the Supreme Court, and that case went away in its entirety. But in theory, those 6 unindicted co-conspirators could still have been prosecuted federally. But now Donald Trump has pardoned the suits of the insurrection, not only those 6, but 71 others, 77 pardons. And, you know, this I view, and let me tell you, Jim, one of the reasons I love that we are here as independent media together, no longer corporate media or legacy media, is because when I read, I don't mean to, you know, for this to be a knock on the New York Times or NBC News. I worked for MSNBC for 6.5 years. They are reporting things like, well, you know, these are just symbolic pardons. And I see it very differently.
Interesting. Okay.
This is a recruiting tool by Donald Trump, calling all insurrectionists. He's already curried favor with the boots of the insurrection, the foot soldiers, the stormtroopers. So if he needs to call upon them again, he already has them in his pocket. Now he has the suits of the insurrection.
He can get the band back together.
The dirty lawyer corps. And he is announcing to them, listen, this is basically Donald Trump posting a job announcement by issuing these pardons to the lawyers, the suits of the insurrection. And in my typically smart alecky New Jersey guy way, this is what I posted on Substack in a written piece earlier today. I said, listen, this is essentially a job announcement that Donald Trump is posting, with the announcement being election interference co-conspirators wanted. Qualifications: must be willing to lie about election interference, must be willing to undermine the expressed will of the American voters, must be willing to destroy American democracy, and if push comes to shove, and I mean that literally, must be willing to attack the United States Capitol in an effort to stop the certification of an election. But the benefits include a presidential pardon for any and all crimes committed in the execution of your conspiratorial responsibilities. There's the job announcement Donald Trump posted by virtue of delivering these 77 pardons.
Well, and Glenn, I'll go one further. I'll raise the ante here a little bit. They could try to pull this shit in the upcoming midterms, and then Donald Trump is still the president. So, I mean, he has the ability to pardon people right up until January 20th, 2029. And so, I mean, there's a lot of runway to do coup stuff between now and 2026 and beyond. And that's what makes, I think, this announcement that you're talking about, you're right. It is no way just a symbolic thing. This is dangerous for our democracy.
You're exactly right, Jim. And this pardon is for past crimes, but he is signaling that if you come join my conspiratorial team, I'm going to pardon you for future crimes, future right now, but they won't be future come the last day of his presidential term. So here's what I fear. We're going to see a post from Donald Trump. I don't know precisely what day the midterm elections are being held, but let's just theoretically say November 4 of next year. You know, on November 3, he'll say, okay, I've recruited you all by giving you pardons, both the boots and the suits. Now, you all need to go not to the Capitol on the day of the midterm elections. You need to go to every polling place in your state, and you need to fight like hell or you won't have a country anymore. Now, stop the free and fair elections. And he has set that up by pardoning both the boots and the suits of the insurrection, and that's what I fear.
Well, and if folks are, I know people who are watching here are probably rightly concerned and concerned, but I mean, but for folks who might even just have just a thought for a moment that this is not serious, I want to show this headline that just popped up today from Stuart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers. Remember him? He announced today, or yesterday, I guess I should say, on one of these nut job websites, the Gateway Pundit, Stuart Rhodes announces relaunch of Oath Keepers with the Gateway Pundit. Glenn, the Oath Keepers, they are the OG insurrectionists. These are the ones who were locked up that were violent and were pardoned by Donald Trump. And I've talked to people in Rhodes's family who are completely mortified and frightened that he would be let out. And now he is announcing he is reconstituting the Oath Keepers. That is a scary thought.
And that comes on the heels of these 77 pardons. This was a recruiting call by Donald Trump.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't symbolic, as the New York Times and NBC News tried to peddle. No,
we're almost right back where we were before January 6th.
Exactly. And we see how it played out. We see how it played out on January 6th. Fortunately, they couldn't stop the certification, but look at how much damage they did to so many people, police officers, not to mention our American democracy in the process. And I fear that we're about to see it all over again come the midterms, and maybe even come 2028 if Donald Trump decides he wants to run for a third term, or even if he doesn't, Jim. Whoever the anointed Republican heir apparent to King Donald might be, Donald Trump has just positioned things so he can deploy people to the Capitol all over again, because he has created this battalion, if not division, of insurrectionists, both the boots and the suits, right? The muscle and the brains. Right. If I'm going to give Rudy Giuliani, I guess I shouldn't include him in the brains part of the gang. He's been disbarred twice. And these people that he just pardoned, some of them, the good news is, are still pending criminal charges in state court in Georgia, in Arizona. So this presidential pardon will not impact those cases. That's small consolation from where we sit. But, these people, some of them have been criminally have pleaded guilty to being part of Donald Trump's dirty efforts to undermine, for example, the 2020 presidential results in Georgia. He just pardoned Kenneth Chesebro and Jenna Ellis. Both of them pleaded guilty to being part of Donald Trump's criminal scheme. And they just
wasn't she crying and in
pardons.
tears and everything?
Now maybe she's reformed. I believe in redemption. Redemption is an important part of I think what we value in America. But I'll believe that those folks are redeemed when I see some evidence of it.
Yeah, and the other thing too that needs to be pointed out, is that next time around it may be J.D. Vance, who is going to be in that position, in that catbird seat as Mike Pence was, and have the ability to sway this one way or the other. And J.D. Vance may very well be the person who's running at the top of the tick next time. I mean, the layers here are disturbing, and they're just getting exponentially worse by the day. But I totally agree with you, Glenn, and I'm glad that you came on, because these pardons are a signal right now that it's on. It's on for next year. It's on for 2028. And these are the people who are willing to do it for him. Yeah, that's what's wrong about this.
And here's what I hope happens come 2028. If the rule of law has come back into the light, we have a Democrat president and an administration, a cabinet that abides by the Constitution, we're going to have to attack these corruptly delivered pardons. I know it's going to be hard because the Supreme Court said core constitutional function, very hard to go behind it. But let me leave your viewers with this, Jim. Don't forget that even Bill Barr, of all people, rarely do I quote him on anything, he testified before Congress that Donald Trump can't deliver pardons to co-conspirators who could implicate him in crimes. That would be unlawful. That's Bill Barr. If Bill Barr has announced previously, this is not kosher, this is not acceptable, the DOJ attorneys will, moving forward, once we come back into the light of day, they will have to attack these corruptly delivered pardons and fight that fight in court, win, lose, or draw. There's no shame in taking a righteous case to trial and losing it. There's nothing but shame in refusing to take a righteous case to trial for fear you will lose it. So this is a battle that will outlast Donald Trump.
Absolutely. He is the poster child for pardon reform in this country. I mean, it's just unreal what he's done. Glenn Kirshner, always great to talk to you. Thank you, Glenn, very much.
Great being with you, Jim.
Great to be with you. Thank you. And I mean, Glenn is absolutely right. Our democracy is teetering right now, ladies and gentlemen. It is on its knees. It's a bit wobbly right now. It is not standing strong. And that is why this capitulation that we've seen from some of these Senate Democrats going along and making this deal with the devil, it is so deeply disturbing and disappointing that you have to step back for a moment and take it all in and understand and recognize the moment that we're in right now. The moment that we're in right now, it is going to take something along the lines of a revolution inside the Democratic Party. It seems to me that there are just some in the Senate, and it's always been called the cooling saucer of democracy, but this is an Arctic chill. And it seems to me that there are just some in the Democratic Party who are just, I mean, it doesn't matter what Donald Trump does at this point. He can do anything. We know that he can do anything and Republicans will go along with it. We know he can do anything and Republicans will stand there and do nothing. But the reason why you have an opposition party in this country, ladies and gentlemen, is that you're the opposition party and you were winning. You came out of last week winning. Donald Trump was getting booed at an NFL game on Sunday. And then in that same evening, these Senate Democrats come out of the woodwork and say, oh, we weren't winning. We weren't really standing up to Donald Trump. Standing up to Donald Trump didn't work, as Angus King said. Come on. It was working until you backed out of it, until you backed down. It was working until you caved, man. And so to me, I understand that there are some, so-called experts and establishment types and smart people who are saying, oh, well, the Democrats will be glad that they took this deal and they did, and they'll look good in the long run because the American people will see that they stood up for these Obamacare subsidies and the Republicans will have to be put on the spot. I mean, maybe if it all works out that way, but who are we dealing with? We're dealing with the hostage taker in chief. We're dealing with somebody who bulldozed the East Wing of the White House, didn't check in with anybody. We're talking about somebody who, even when he had a court telling him to release the SNAP benefits, was refusing to do so and going to the Supreme Court to avoid paying those SNAP benefits. He was taking SNAP benefits, food assistance hostage. He was taking federal employees hostage. He was taking Obamacare hostage, your health care hostage. And now you're going to trust him? Now you're going to trust the Republicans who will do anything he says? Come on. Wake up. Wake the fuck up. In what world are you living? Donald Trump will take more hostages. Donald Trump will play chicken again. And now he has a clip to put in every campaign ad between now and the 2026 elections. Standing up to Donald Trump didn't work. The worst fucking thing I've heard from a Democrat in a really long time. And I hate to pick on somebody who maybe might want that moment back. I mean, if I were him, I would want that moment back. If there's anybody who has ever existed in American history, who has ever sat in the Oval Office, inside the White House, who deserves to be stood up to, it's this fucking guy. Do I need to show the video? I think I should show the video again of the little girl. There's a little kid, 1-year-old in Illinois. This happened over the weekend.
Okay, Bobby, you okay? Fucking Bobino.
His father's driving the car. out of a
comfortable being
Sam's
on these
Club.
racist fucks, hitting
And
our children.
this van full of, or SUV full of federal agents from ICE or CBP or DHS or wherever the fuck they are spraying pepper spray into this man's car and hits his little girl, a 1-year-old, in the face. That is America right now. That is America 2025. If there's anything in the name of God that is worth standing up to, it is the abuse of little children in our country by our government. So my God, man, my God, Angus King, for the love of God, yes, standing up to Donald Trump does work. Did you see the No Kings protests? Did you see what happened last week in these elections across the country? It works. It works. What happened in 2020? Standing up to him, it worked. And you were winning. You were winning this thing. And you snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. And it just seems to me that the lesson just isn't learned. It just isn't learned. And so I just don't understand how one could convince themselves that, oh yeah, we'll just have a vote in a month from now and they'll go along with it and everything will be fine. And Donald Trump will go along with this and he won't want to fuck that one up too and hold more hostages. It's Donald Trump. Holding hostages is what he does. Driving this thing off the cliff is what he does. It's what he did last time. It's what he's going to do again. And it seems to me what the Democratic Party needs is a revolution. It needs a revolution. It needs a movement that sends a message to the rest of the party that there can't be any more Democrats who say standing up to Donald Trump doesn't work. That should be an instant, you're out of here, man. That like, retire. What are you doing? Just leave. Go. Some of these guys just don't get it. Some of these guys just don't get it. And it's time to make sure they do get it. It's high time. It's well past time to make sure they do get it. My thanks to Joaquin Castro. My thanks to Ezra Levin. My thanks to Glenn Kirshner. My thanks to all of you. Really appreciate it. Thanks for tolerating me having a little day off on Friday. That did help quite a bit. So thank you so much for being patient with that. And we're going to continue to do some more reporting all week long. Lots to discuss. Lots of maybe some surprises coming up between now and the end of the week. So stay tuned. Got some good stuff coming down the pike. So hang in there. We've got some real treats for you coming up here in the next several days. But in the meantime, still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. Please don't give up on standing up. Don't give up. And I won't either. I'll see you next time.